I grew up during a time where video games were on the rise. As a young boy, I used to remember going to the local arcade, which is now very few now, but I remember I used to go to a mall and my mom used to give me $5 to go to an arcade. Back then, that's when they had, the Tekken, the Street Fighters, the Dance Dance Revolution, and it was a time where arcades were really on the rise. This was before home consoles like the Sega Saturn and PlayStation and the really next generation consoles came to market, to where you got a better graphical and a better overall experience playing an arcade machine than you actually would in a home port. With the exception of like Street Fighter and some of the old games that came out on like on Super Nintendo and things like that. Fast forward to today, where arcades are basically dying. The only type of arcades you find right now are mostly retro arcades, when you see the Street Fighters and like Galaga and your Space Invaders. As a kid, one of my dreams was to own my very own arcade unit. I think as a young boy, everybody has that initial dream where they have this a big room with all their favorite arcades. Growing up, some of my favorites, obviously Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat for one, Crazy Taxi. I love that game. If I could actually get the actual Crazy Taxi real and full arcade unit, that'd be awesome. And of course, the old school Star Wars one, the actual sit down, and when they made that port back from the Atari 2600, I think it was, I forget what it was. But today I realized a dream. I got, for a really good price, I don't even know if you can see it, Arcade One Up. This is the Street Fighter edition. I gotta lift it up here, okay, it's heavy. There we go, Street Fighter edition. Comes with 3 games. Street Fighter 2 Champions Edition, Street Fighter 2 Super, and Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is mostly the same games, whatever. But I'm super stoked to have my very first arcade unit. I'm going to put it together, do a little review, and show how it goes. So let's start doing some manual labor. How cool is that? The attention to detail with these arcade units are probably why I'm so attracted to these. I would love to get an actual legit full-on arcade unit, but for the most part, these will fit the bill just fine. Now, if you're looking at it, see, this is how tall the arcade unit actually is. It's only 4 feet tall, but they do also sell an additional riser to kind of make it a 5 foot tall arcade, which I did purchase, so I'm gonna have it raise a little bit above, because I want the traditional arcade experience where you're actually standing and playing. So. Here's the actual arcade unit itself. Button feels pretty good. Another thing with this, there's a very big modding community that takes the arcade units and creates you can either put a Raspberry Pi into them and get a bunch of the old retro games like the NAM or anything like that. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna try to do that. I'm technologically curious to see how it would do, but you would have to do a couple of different things with that, and one of them is to rewire all the buttons, which looks like it's enclosed. I'm sure I can just take this part off down here and expose a lot of the wires so I can wire it up that way. But for the most part now, I just want to experience the arcade funness of what this is. Back to the, it said don't use power tools, but I'm lazy. As long as you put it on the lower setting, you're fine. So, found a small little problem, is that in this piece right here, it recommends using this screw to go into this hole right here. The problem is the hole looks like they didn't drill it good enough or pre-drill or anything, so this isn't going to work unless I drill into this, and I don't want to really do that. So instead, I am going to use some of these drywall screws that I have, and that should actually fit pretty good and make the hole itself, since these are more pointy. So just keep in mind, this is basically like building like IKEA furniture. It's not perfect all the time. Sometimes you're gonna have a little bit of kinks, but you know, as long as you're used to building IKEA furniture, you're kind of used to doing a little workaround. So no big deal. Alright, there it is in a nutshell, man. So, minus the needing some of the other marquees and stuff, that's pretty much the whole unit itself. That's still got some film on it, I gotta do that. Now, the other thing I was talking about is the... This is heavy. And this is heavier than the freaking unit. Is the riser. So this... And one thing I do hate this is an additional $50 cost onto what this already is. But in hindsight, you're getting a full arcade unit for under $300 for this particular one here that I got. So taking mine like a regular arcade unit would be over close to $1,000 versus this is only $300. So I digress. But this adds an extra foot to the arcade unit. So I'm going to build that so we get a little bit of rise so I can actually play like a regular arcade unit. So my camera's gonna overheat, so you got the good majority of it out of the way of what the build process is. I am going to stop it here. I'm gonna cut away to when I hook up some of the other things so you can kind of see how the electronics work, but the actual build quality, if you can build an IKEA shelf, you can build this. All right, catch you in a second. Here it is in all its glory. It's actually really cool, a lot cooler than I thought it was. So the screen is nice. I like that. It's you know, the LCD panel. I don't know how it's gonna look with other retro games if I ever decided to do the actual Raspberry Pi hack and load a bunch of different NAND games on there. The biggest annoyance that I have with certain emulators is the fact that it has that kind of like interlacing thing where everything looks like it's more or less glitching out versus actually being a smooth type of experience. Normally you get those a lot with any type of new LCD screens, like the old school like CRT and cart monitors. You don't get that, so that's what really is in an actual arcade unit. Now, in order to install the actual joysticks, it's really easy. So there's a ribbon cable that is in the back of the actual monitor, and the ribbon cable goes to the back of this right here. What I'm guessing is this board is just kind of like, well, it's an arcade board, but I'm assuming you can actually take that up and put a Raspberry Pi in there if I wanted to, but that's not what this video is all about. So that's just snaps, it just falls right in there, just like so. And then in the back, there's a ribbon cable. It's not that heavy either. It's kind of heavy, but it's not super heavy. There we go. So that's the only cable. So it's a IDE cable, ironically. So for those of you who are actually computer nerds, you will know IDE is what used to be used for old school hard drives and type of printer ports and stuff like that. So screw it in right there. Okay, so there's that right there.
It plugs in there some way.
That might help. Okay, so there's a ribbon cable and goes right underneath here. Okay. So that went right in the bottom of the controller. Right in the bottom of the controller right there. Your power goes right here into this unit there, and essentially you're good to go. Okay, technically she has power, so I should be able to go click. There we go. Volume on top here, power button on and off. So I didn't connect the controller yet, but and these parts are upgradable. You can upgrade to different controllers. I heard some of them, they're not the greatest controllers in the world, but I'm not going to be picky in this scenario. That's cool. So a little washer that goes right over the top, just like so, just like your typical arcade. The screen is clean, I can say that for sure. And it does have a little bit of an interlace looking, almost kind of like a retro arcade feel, and I actually really like that. So you can get upgraded things on Amazon too. So do you have the little ball, so you can kind of get the longer, don't even know what you call it. I don't want to really say anything perverted to get demonetized on YouTube. Well, I'm not making any cash on YouTube anyways, but whatever. All right, so let's screw that on. It does feel a little cheap, but it's okay. Okay, that's so cool. Okay, expectations just went the second I had that go on. Oh, this is cool. I definitely want to get the riser going now, but let's see.
Round one, fight!
Okay. I'm gonna have to get used to the controller for sure, but overall, I am super happy. I am probably going. I'm gonna power it off right now. Hopefully, that doesn't hurt it too much, but I'm definitely going to upgrade the joysticks. I saw a couple of YouTube videos where you can upgrade them to get a little bit better feel, so I might mess around with that. So this is going to kind of be a hobby. It's really neat. Now, I have heard that there's going to be other arcade machines coming out. They're actually making a Star Wars arcade one-up machine, which I am super stoked for. I'm going to put a pre-order on that because it just looks awesome. It's more of a collector piece. This is going to be more of a hobby of mine. I'm going to upgrade it a little bit and do some different things for it, just to have an arcade machine in the house to play some games. The Star Wars one is totally a collector piece. And I also heard there's going to be a Ninja Turtle one that's a 4-player one, so I might look into that. So I'm going to turn my house into a whole freaking arcade unit. I'll give you guys a view of what it looks like finished with the riser. But until then, I'm out. This is James from HiRun Tech. I will catch you again in the next video. Take care.